Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Today is Thursday, December 12th. Tourist Development Council meeting will convene. Roll call, please. Someone call the roll? Oh, we do the pledge first, sorry. Let's stand up for the pledge, my bad. In a while. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Glad someone's keeping me straight. Now we'll do the roll call.
Commissioner Kevin Levine.
Here.
Brandon Myers. Councilman Bouchette.
Present.
Pamela Cronin.
Here.
Tony Lappy.
Here.
Jay Johnson.
Here.
Rob Wells.
Here.
Bill White-Schulis.
Morning.
Ryan Kramer.
Here.
Councilman Bill Snyder.
Here.
Councilman Larry Kiesel.
Here.
Mayor Dan Aller.
Here. Thank you.
Councilwoman Holly Smith and Councilman Nigel Gulick are excused. We do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Turn it over to Tam.
All right. Well, as we do in December when the rotation happens, we love to say thank you and wish a wonderful holiday season to our outgoing chairman. And today we would like to present a plaque to Commissioner Pendergrass for all he did.
Thank you all. Good morning. Enjoy this great weather this morning. It's also important. Thank you for the past year, and I know you have very much confidence in you with Commissioner Ray coming forward next year. You have a great year. Thank you for everything you do in the county to keep everything going as far as the hospitality and our economic tourism. So again, thank you for everything. Thank you to the staff for another great year working with you guys. Look forward to working with you again. Thank you.
Appreciate Commissioner Pendergrass more than you know. Great guy to work with, and I'll try to do my best to follow him. It's been a minute since I've been here. For anyone that doesn't know me, I sat here for about 7 years when I was in the city of Sanibel. So I've let others do this because having done it for a number of years, I thought it was best to have other commissioners that don't sit as frequently. So, but it's an honor to be back. I appreciate the opportunity to work with you all. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the August minutes. We have a motion on the floor by Jay.
I'll second.
I have a second by Bill. Any other discussion? Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next would be public to be heard. Anyone from the public?
Good morning. My name is Sharon McAllister with ArtFest Fort Myers. Last time I was here, I made a comment from right over there to Pam Cronin that I was not here on behalf of ArtFest, if you recall, right? 3 or 4 weeks went by. Alas, I am here representing ArtFest Fort Myers. Those of you who do not know me, I am the founder of that event, and we are 25 years old this year. It is hard for me to believe that 25 years has passed. But I'm here to thank you for all the support that the TDC has provided for the Art Festival almost since its inception. It is really instrumental for us. This year's event, and we have grown to be quite the legacy event in this county in our size and our reputation. So it is great to be back to lead the 25th anniversary. This year's festival is February 1st and 2nd, with opening night on the 31st. We will have your tickets. We do not have them printed, sorry. I'm a little behind, having started so late in the year. We will have them to the VCB to get distributed to you in plenty of time. So thank you again for your support, and I look forward to seeing you all there.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Wilson with Edison and Ford Winter Estates. Just want to remind everyone that our 49th annual Holiday Nights is underway, so I hope everyone will come out and see the lights. And if you'd like to decorate some cookies, but you don't want to actually bake them in your house, we have a cookie decorating program that'll be on December 21st, and we still have some openings for that. So we hope to see everyone there, and I want to wish everyone a happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public would like to speak? Seeing none, I'll go to municipalities to be heard.
Morning, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Good. Okay, now can you hear me? Let's hear it. Okay, how are you again? Good morning. Okay, how do you switch this? You just press this and, okay. So my name is Ashley Anderson. I'm from the city of Cape Coral. For those of you who don't know me, I'm in the Economic Development Office, and I focus on business attraction and recruitment into Cape Coral. So we haven't had a meeting in a while, so we're going to do a deep dive into Cape Coral. So get your hats ready, hold on to your seatbelts. We're going in. Catching up on the Cape. So in August, we had, is there a way to see the notes on the PowerPoint? Otherwise, I'm winging it. So I'm winging it. Okay, so all my notes are gone. In August, we had our Gulf Coast acquisition approved by the City Council. Also in August, we had the grand opening of the Lake Kennedy Racket Center. It's unfortunate that I don't have my notes because I had a lot of very interesting data on that opening. In September, we had the Island Hopper Festival come to Cape Coral. And if I can remember, we had almost 2,000 visitors just for that event to Cape Coral for that segment. In October, we had our 39th Oktoberfest, and I couldn't help but add a bratwurst on the photo just to get you hungry. And monthly roundtables, we continue to have those for each industry throughout the Cape Coral area. And in October, we had construction and building trades. In November, we had marine industry. And I believe in January, we're going to have workforce and education, if I remember. So those continue. We had our trunk or treat. If anybody attended that, you'll know that it was a very successful event. People waited in line for a long time, wrapped around the building. It was an incredible turnout. So next year, we're probably trying to figure out how to make that a little bit more efficient because the turnout was insane. But it was a great opportunity. And then we had holiday nights on the lawn. That ended as well. Also in November, we had Concert in the Park, Veterans Parade that some of you had participated in, and then also Music and Arts Fusion Walk. So those were all the events that we had in Cape Coral that we're very proud of, and we continue to do that next year. Oh, here is some information about Lake Kennedy Racket Center. So very interestingly, so on the first day of the opening, we had already a tournament that was scheduled, a championship. So Southern Pickleball Tournament was held on August 28th on the opening day, and it went so well that, you could say it with me, they also had a championship called Deck the Halls with Pickleballs. And that was fantastic turnout, and we're not only seeing people bring, the championships and the tournaments, and we're not only seeing the competitors, but we're seeing them bring their families. And so that's a really awesome, outturn for this particular event. And we had foot traffic in the last 6 months of 29,000 people going to that particular entity. Visitors totaled in the last 6 months 5,000. And then they already have us, I think as of last week, over 2,000 members. So you can see I just put a little graphic up there just to show you that one, that one company, for the lack of a word, is really, really doing well in Cape Coral. And then looking ahead. So hopefully some of you are going to participate in this, but we put this up here so that you can also disseminate this information to your networks. The reindeer run, that's just coming up on Saturday. Very exciting. I think that's one of the pictures from that last year. Holiday boat along at Four Freedoms Park. I think you can even enter your own boat if you want to participate in that parade. And you can find all this information on the website, on our city website. New Year's Eve celebration, there's going to be a ball drop. I think there's going to be 2 ball drops, one for the early crowd and one for the late crowd. So I think at 8 o'clock and then also midnight. So we hope to see you downtown for that. And then the 39th annual Cape Coral Art Festival and Marketplace. That's a huge event. And again, I don't have my notes visible here, but I think it brings in 140,000 people annually. So that's something definitely to check out. And then, of course, our tour to Cape, and that's to burn off all of those calories from the holidays. And that's going to be at the mid-January time, and you can register your participation at the website. And then our tourism spotlight. While this is in advance, I mean, this is going to happen in the summer of next year. It's very exciting. So Sunsplash, who's based in Cape Coral, is opening a wave pool, which, is very fun for the kids and, adults alike. So just to put that into your back pocket, if you need something to entice travelers, this is another reason. And then every month or so, we have local business spotlights. It's just to kind of highlight our local businesses this month, since I think October. Paradise Bikes, Mullins Memorial, Cafe U, Family Hardware, and then the Hungry Captain were all featured on our social media platforms. And then finally, we have our final update for, do you all know what Cape Quest is? Okay, good. So Cape Quest 2.0 it began obviously at the end of last year, and it's continued until now, but it is finished. And so here are the final numbers for engagement in that particular quest. So we saw over 2,000 people sign up. We saw over 5,000 location check-ins, meaning people took their time to go all over Cape Coral, see new things, engage with locals and businesses. Over 300 prizes awarded, 155 coupons redeemed, 133 residents entered to win a night at the Westin, 2-night stay. And then 72 residents checked in at all 30 events. So, and then they earned a Sunsplash season pass. So that's very exciting. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach me at my email address or after this meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other municipalities to be heard? Seeing none, I'll close that. We'll go to special presentations. Steve, thanks.
Good morning. I think I know most of you, but for those I don't, I'm Steve Buttel with Lee County Natural Resources Division. One of the things that we try to do as part of what goes on in natural resources is be involved in all the beach projects, which of course you are so supportive of. We don't do them all, but the ones that we don't do, we try to be a resource working with our federal, state, and other local partners that are involved in those projects. So what I want to do today, last time I was here, we had kind of a bad news picture showing all the Ian damage. Look like right now. So we're going to go north to south and start up on Gasparilla Island. This is a federal project, meaning it will be done by the Army Corps of Engineers. It qualified after Ian to be rebuilt, and that will be 100% federal under the Flood Control and Coastal Emergencies Act. Now, since Ian, Helene and Milton did some interesting things up there, not interesting in a good way necessarily, but this is a boardwalk that you guys funded. That's supposed to be the top of the railing. And so with the surge that came in Boca Grande, what we saw was, like a lot of places in the county, a lot of sand pushed back and rolled up onto the island. So that boardwalk is buried by about 3 to 4 feet of sand right there as those dunes rolled back. Here where it's just a dune, not such a big problem. Other areas where there wasn't a dune, there are some more significant problems up there structurally. These walls, this particular one is a state park asset that they're still trying to figure out what they're going to do with. But we also saw that on other areas of the island. This is near the Gasparilla Inn's cottages and beach club up there. And so what you can see here, the rocks on the front side of that wall, those were buried under the dune. So obviously, a lot of that sand got transported off or was washed back up onto the island. So repairs are ongoing there now. Part of what we were able to do is collect a lot of the overwashed sand. We did this from the public roads as a county entity. Many of the private property owners also participated in this. We screened that sand and get that back out onto the beach as a bit of a Band-Aid. But that much bigger project is scheduled to come in 2025. Army Corps is anticipating that they're going to advertise for construction around July. This is their current schedule, with September coming in for a full-scale beach nourishment project. So while some of this overwashed sand was able to come back out, and you can see this is an example of primarily the private owners in this particular case that put that sand back out, were able to get that much better situation than the previous slide you saw. But if you look at the full profile of that beach, it's not where it needs to be, so we're looking forward to 25 on that one, and again, that'll be fully funded by the Army Corps of Engineers. Next stop will be south onto Captiva. For those of you who are familiar with Captiva Island, that's Allison Hager Beach Park access point, post Milton. It's been kind of a triple whammy out there on Captiva, with Ian leaving them exposed, even a little bit from Debbie, kind of took a little bit of a side swipe at them. Helene got their attention, and then Milton really kicked them while they're down. They are very active there. Captiva Erosion Prevention District is on point with this particular project, but they obviously lost a lot of sand, lowered the beach profile tremendously. What you can't see, that pile right there, that actually, those pile of rocks right there, that used to be a buried revetment underneath a dune, and is now fully exposed. That's typical of what's going on. Another perspective here, you can see if you look at this house, those are septic tanks on the left, from your perspective, that left side there. That used to be buried and are exposed. You can also look at the paint lines on the house to get a sense of just how much sand was lost out of there. So, really importantly, the other big thing that got everybody's attention, this is Captiva Drive out there in front of Tween Waters. The beach and the rock revetment put up a valiant effort, but there's a lot of energy there that caused some damage. I hate to think what would have happened there without that protection being there, but there was a rapid response from DOT. They were able to get that back in short order. They also were able to capture a lot of the overwash sand here as well. That's typical of the operation. Part of that was done by the county, part of that was done by Captiva Erosion Prevention District. Overall, they got about 10,000 cubic yards. They were able to get back out in front of some of those locations. That gives you a sense of what that looks like. For perspective now, 10,000 cubic yards, their project is going to be 1.1 million. So just a little bitty Band-Aid, but it will help to buy some time, particularly in the winter season as we get cold fronts. And that's that yellow house in the background that I showed you as the illustration of the deflation on that beach, just for some perspective. You can see what they were able to do with that overwashed sand to kind of rebuild a dune there.
Steve, are they moving those septics?
I don't know the answer to that. A lot of those facilities are also constrained by other infrastructure. So it may just be they've got to get it back under the proper amount of cover, and I don't know in that particular case, like where's the drain field, those kind of things. I don't know those details. But I think the intent is to try to get that beach back out there to protect all of that infrastructure. Just to the south then, this is the curve on Sanibel now. This is on Sandcap Road. Again, this is a little closer to the action right after the storm had subsided. That overwash sand there again was collected. The wall that you guys funded for the city of Sanibel held up quite well, but there was some scour, so some of the overwash sand is in the process of going back to this location, and the city of Sanibel is also continuing with their efforts to look at three kind of hotspots, this being one of them. Clam Bayou being another, which was breached and is currently still open and exposing some of the houses behind, that had been in on the bayou, and then Lighthouse Point, and they're working on some additional permits to be able to expand the footprint of what they can do to make that a little more robust there at Lighthouse Point. They still have some Ian funding from the state of Florida that they're able to use to implement those projects. And then as we move south now, we're getting onto Fort Myers Beach where they are under construction. This is a project which the city is the town of Fort Myers Beach is managing. Otna Construction is their contractor. Gives you a sense, if you've not seen how these projects work, generally there's a pipe that is delivering sand to the beach, and they are ongoing now. From the air, you can get a little more of a sense as we look from Bowditch Point towards the south, and you can, if you use the bridge coming over as kind of a reference point in this image, which was just a few days ago, you can see at that point they were right about at Lynn Hall Park. And
Can you just go back to?
Yep.
So that's the north end, obviously.
Correct.
Obviously, Helene and Milton caused that big gouge in there because the beach used to go all the way out.
Yeah.
There's no plans to fix that because it's like a
Right.
river that goes between the.
Yeah. So what we anticipate would happen, it's a typical response of the beach when it gets hit by a storm. Some of that sand gets moved offshore. And so that's what they call a storm bar. So where you see kind of the beach, and then there's that trough of water where it's dark there, and then you see what looks like more beach or a sandbar in that offshore. So that's what they would call the storm bar. And that is the beach absorbing the energy from that storm as it moves some of that sand offshore. Now, when conditions calm down, that will tend to weld back onto the beach and just gently overtop and fill back in. So I don't think there are any plans to actively move that or fill it, but I would anticipate that sand to come back on shore over the next 6 months or so. And then here's a bit of a different perspective. We're looking down now on top of right about Lynn Hall Park. You can see where the pier was, and then they're working right there at Crescent. And I think they finished up Crescent Beach Park area yesterday, and they're continuing to move to the south. They hope to get down past the Lonnie Kai within the next week or so. And then at that point, they're going to jump south. Just to give you a sense, they've got a very aggressive, large plan, but there are some constraints. And so the south segment where there's active bird nesting down there in a critical wildlife area. They're going to jump down there so they can finish that up before May 1st, when all of those environmental windows close the ability to do that work. And they'll come back up to the central segment and finish that up sometime second quarter of 25 is what they're projecting right now. Big project there, obviously, and $22 million is, I think, what the estimated price tag was on that. Don't know if that changed post Helene and Milton. About $6 million in bed tax going into that one.
Given that they were there and
Yeah.
the impacts happened, will they be adding more sand, do you think?
Yeah, so good question as far as what happens if you get impacted and you've got somebody there. Obviously, it's a bit of a kind of balancing act because, you know, who's going to pay for it? Do you have the budget? Is it eligible for? Fort Myers Beach is eligible for a FEMA funding. Portion of it is not. But always our preferred option is to make the design whole. A big portion of the cost on these projects is just getting the equipment there. So if you've got them there, that incremental cost to add some additional sand, if you've got it in your sand source, which I think here they do, that would be the preferred alternative is to make that whole. And I know here, also on Captiva, and as we'll talk about on Lovers Key and Bonita Beach, there's also an active request that came in from the state of Florida, said, hey, tell us what your damages are. When we did that after Ian, there was a special legislative appropriation for funding at 100% state to try to take care of some of those repairs. So we are hopeful that we're going to see something like that again out of this next session, and leadership at DEP has confirmed that's the intent. So obviously it has to go through the legislative process, but that's the intent. So I know that all of those entities have crunched the numbers, said here's our damages, we've sent them up to DEP, and they're now actively communicating with the staff as they're getting ready to go into session there.
Thank you.
And as we move now, Lovers Key, this is a project that the county is managing. We are in partnership there with the city of Bonita Springs. This is Lovers Key State Park that we're looking down on top of, and it'll give you a good sense of where that shoreline was. That was the trolley bridge coming over, and that small 200-foot wide segment right there is about what that profile is going to look like across the island when we're finished. So they've been working there for about a week now, and we anticipate that the entirety of the Lovers Key segment will wrap up in early January. And then they will move to Bonita Springs. The North Bonita, kind of normal nourishment project area, was in the plans. We modified that because of Ian to include some dune work to the south. And then we had to modify that again because where we were going to just repair the dunes on the south end of Bonita Beach, there was nothing to put the dune on top of. So we had to go in and request emergency permits, which were issued as of yesterday. So that South Bonita project expanded a little bit. The city of Bonita Springs is paying for that. The county has graciously worked out some terms so that they have several fiscal years to be able to manage that as they also try to go after those additional state funds. But again, we'll be able to make that beach whole again as we're there. We have the equipment in place. We're able to just pivot a little bit to increase the volume to bring that back to what it needs to be. And I think all of the projects, this one for sure is the one that I know the details on. We're also considering this kind of newer storm environment that we're in, and we've modified our design to try to make those beach profiles a little more resilient. I think everybody's looking at that as well. But, you know, we need a little time. We need a break because the dune plants are a critical component, and these back-to-back storms that just like Fort Myers Beach wasn't able to get the plants in yet. Here we've not been able to get the plants in. Captiva, I know, has an aggressive plan there as well. So that's a key component to get that kind of green infrastructure in place to help hold the sand where we put it. And just because I had a pretty picture to close on, that's kind of, as they're pumping that on Lover's Key, this was day one on startup. So weather's a driving factor. We hope to be completely finished with that one early February down there as well. The bottom line on that one is going to come in at around $44 million with the expanded South Bonita piece, and about $7.5 million of that's coming from bed tax. So again, there's my contact information on the bottom. We're not managing all these, but I'm happy to answer questions or find somebody who can.
One question on Clam Bayou, because years ago Clam Bayou was opened by itself. When it closed, Sanibel then built that culvert between the road to help the flushing of it. Is there a plan to just leave it the way it is, let nature take its course, or when the next renourishment happens?
Well, I think that, yeah, it's not within a nourishment project limit where it's currently open. So I think that's something that the city of Sanibel right now is engaged with Humiston and Moore, a coastal engineer that's got some good local expertise to try to evaluate what are the risks of leaving that open versus just waiting to see if it closes naturally versus taking an active approach to try to get a new permit to close that up. And it is, again, it's kind of a balancing act. Right now, they don't have permits to do anything there, but I know that's a question they're engaged in actively to try to decide what they want to do there.
Thank you.
Holly Milbrandt would be your point of contact at the city on that one. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Steve, thank you. Boca Grande's been doing an amazing job of getting all that sand out of the city. For those of you that don't know, it all got washed into some of the buildings that make up the little retail shops and restaurants in downtown. Who led that? How did they come about the idea and build the plant to sift it and all of the things that they did so quickly?
Post Ian, we had really good success down on Fort Myers Beach recovering overwashed sand and putting it back. So that was already kind of built into now what you'd call our standard response kind of strategy. But the volume of sand there from Milton was really unprecedented. But we kind of we knew what the tools looked like. So the roads and the public rights of way are always something that the county takes care of, and that's led by our DOT on their first push, and then our pre-placed disaster response contractors are able to come in and assist to collect that. And at that point, because it's in those roads and we need to restore access for public safety and other things to get that recovery operation going, it's actually considered debris. And so it's removed under a FEMA eligible reimbursement process to get that debris off of the roads and returned. We're able to return it back in. What was a little different on this event, partially because of the scale, because they saw this event like that with that overwashed sand literally all the way up the coast into Pinellas County, was that it got to a point where the state issued an emergency order. Typically, private owners would have to go through a process to get permits, very cumbersome, and they said in this case, hey, you know what? We're just going to trust you guys. Rather than having to get a permit, we're just going to say as long as you meet these criteria and you have no debris and it's clean sand, which was not well defined, but kind of you know it when you see it sort of thing, go ahead. Anybody can put the sand back out there. So that really helped, because if it had just been the local government jurisdictions were the only ones with authority to do that, I'm not sure we've been able to move all that sand. But in Boca Grande, there were places that were well resourced, and once they got the approval, and it took sometimes several phone calls, no, really, you can do this, go ahead, then they just took care of it. So, like I said, the how was something that we knew from Ian. But the resourcing was really a combined public-private. Everybody just kind of pitched in and did what needed to be done.
Thank you.
Steve, thanks for the presentation. Great to get the update. I don't really have a question, just more of an observation. We look at the beach nourishment as, economic driver. I just spent 4 days in London, begging for hurricane insurance with Lloyd's of London. And, we've been with them for 20 years, and we go every year and do presentations. And in our presentation was about the beach nourishment. I will tell you, my presentation, that was They made comments that when they're looking at reinsuring properties that are on the beach, they want to know what the beach renourishment plan is just for fortifying the island. So it's just a different perspective on this. And besides labor, insurance is our biggest other cost. So, you know, this is key for us. So, thank you.
Steve, a couple of questions. You know, when you look at not only Captiva, Gasparilla Island, Fort Myers Beach, Lover's Key, what do you think the total amount of sand that we needed after Milton and or the cost? And I'll get to my point that I'm trying to make if I get ballparks, and I'm not going to hold you to a number. Just
So in aggregate, probably the total to get those beaches back where they need to be is 4 million cubic yards of sand, I would say, in that ballpark. And cost-wise, total, 35 on Captiva and 44 on Lover's Key and 22, $650 million ish total cost.
thanks. The reason for the question, honestly, is, you know, someone that chaired the recovery from, obviously, Ian, now we're going to expand the long-term recovery to include Helene and Milton. You know, the challenge we're going to have as we go through this funding mechanisms is when Ian happened, there was 5 counties that were concentrated on. As the storms, and we learned from them, obviously resiliency is a big key, try to do all we can, but that obviously increases the cost. But when you look at, you know, certainly Helene and Milton and the devastation they did to not only a number of counties within Florida, but then you have other states, you know, the challenge is just the amount of claims and the amount of money you need to ask for, and the entities, and the state is never going to have enough bandwidth because COVID money helped a great deal and we came after Ian. But now we're at a point where, you know, it'll be very hectic up in Tallahassee this upcoming session. The number of people asking for assistance is unprecedented, and the challenge with that is, you know, the legislators trying to get back to funding projects at a realistic dollar amount. It used to be like 2.4, 2.5 billion it got to, and they're trying to get it back to normal days of 700 million. It's still a challenge. So, you know, just talking about the realities, I want most people to know, because what was done during Ian, everyone came to expect, really did. You know, from debris pickup to everything we did was unprecedented, never did it before. Now the new norm, you know, we struggle with debris. People have called endlessly. Well, most people don't realize we didn't have the approval right away to pick up commercial debris. You know, we agonized with FEMA and tried to get some form of approval. We did for one pass. So there's different challenges, there's different reimbursements. I just think it's important for everyone to understand some of the challenges. I mean, when you talk about the volume you're talking about in sand, and we have the ability to do that, it doesn't go without a ton of work. Staffers really put us in a great position to be ready, and what we learned after Ian. That's why it's important to update the plans that we go through, and that's why we're going to incorporate Helene and Milton. Just because the challenge overall to get the beaches back to normal, the amount of money, people don't realize it's hundreds of millions of dollars for debris, it's hundreds of millions of dollars for sand, and we're coming off of Ian, we already went through a couple $100 million to begin with, and now we're coming back asking the same. At some point in time, the bank's going to be closed, and I'm fearful of what session looks like, just because the number of needs, and as much as it hit us, both Helene and Milton, we weren't the casualties and ground zero like we were in the Ian. So the traffic up in Tallahassee is going to be unprecedented. I just want to bring that to everyone's attention, what you need to do, and I appreciate everything you're doing because it's yeoman's work. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Just to kind of further emphasize that point, a normal year for a state appropriation on beaches statewide is $50 million. So obviously, if we've got the 150 just here, you know, it's clearly out of balance, and then further complicated by federal participation being challenged because of new interpretation on their rules there. Historically, they've funded about a third of the cost of beach projects statewide, and that is significantly at risk now as well. So you're right, it's going to be an increasing challenge as we go forward.
ready to go to Tallahassee again and do the best we can for Lee County. So a lot of people go up and do what we need to do. So appreciate everyone's efforts. Thanks.
Thank you.
Reports from the Executive Director. Thank you.
Thank you. Great presentation, Steve, and thank you for keeping us informed. It's really important. All right, let's look at bed tax collection. So you're going to see 3 months of data, and I'm not going to present everything we normally present because that would be quite exhaustive, but everything is in your packet, if that helps. So you see 3 months of bed tax collection there. August was up 16%. September, in essence, flat. But for the fiscal year, we did see a 21% increase over last year. I'm pleased with that bounce back. We still have a long way to go, but as you'll see in the next slide, we did exceed FY19 collections, which I am pleased with. Can we go back one, please? Sorry, I rushed that for you. And then October, as you know, we welcomed kind of back-to-back, end of September, beginning of October hurricanes, and you see that impact on the October bed tax collection, down 13, almost 0.2%. So here's October, how it played out compared to previous Octobers, and also fiscal year to date for this point. In terms of the STAR report, October occupancy was down 0.3%, ADR down, RevPAR down, and for the calendar year, down 8.6%. Next slide. Key data. Occupancy, of course, down in October, but for the calendar year with the vacation rentals, we have seen about a 26% increase in occupancy, 17% increase in ADR. So, stronger performance we're seeing in that area. Still a long way to go in terms of occupancy, though, compared to past years.
But I would say, just when you look at October, we'd had a very good October if it wasn't for 14 days of.
Correct.
I know we were closed eight days of the month, so it's the impact of those two storms was significant.
You can't, and my opinion, we'll probably see a little bit of a hangover for the results the next couple of months because all the messaging, all the images of hurricanes hitting the west coast of Florida affects people's travel decisions.
We're definitely seeing a softer November, December, and it's all related to the storms. People just saying, we'll go for it next year. We'll too much chaos.
In terms of hotel room update, you will see that we come in at about just over 11,500 hotel rooms. Some of that we're benefiting from some newly opened hotel rooms in the Fort Myers area, particularly along I-75 corridor. Next slide, please. You can see what has opened since April. We have five properties that have opened and almost 600 rooms. And, it's always fun to put that in context. That will be 217,000 extra room nights in 2025 for us to create demand for. So it's tricky to open that many at once. That's a 5% increase in the supply, and it does take some time to absorb that. So some of what you're seeing in the occupancy is that situation.
And none of it on the beach.
Correct, none of it on the beach. In fact, from Milton and Helene, we lost some rooms. Gasparilla Inn delayed their normal fall opening until December 15th. We've seen some units that were open on South Seas went offline, and other properties that were affected as well. So, numbers have been challenging given what we're facing. Next slide. Activity at the airport, up in August, no surprise, down in September and October with those storms, but great news for the calendar year, up 12%, and probably going to be, if not a record year, very close to a record year at RSW, which is good news for our community. Tourist tax collections for the fiscal year, as I said, came in at 44 we'll round up 3 million. And as I said, that was beating FY19. In fairness, inflation certainly has affected those numbers, but it is nice to know that it is impossible to say what was our last normal year. I'm not sure any of us knows, but I think, FY19 was as close to a normal year. There was a little hangover that summer from the red tide the previous summer, but it's as close to a normal year that we've had. But I wanted you to see it in context. As we always do, once we get the tourist tax report from the clerk for the fiscal year, wanted to share with you the breakout they provide to us by municipality. So you see those numbers broken down there. And for context, there is the last several years of that breakdown. Obviously you see pretty significant change, at Fort Myers Beach and Sanibel because of the impacts of Ian. And then, because, why not give you one more version of this, a pie chart of it too? Maybe go back to the other one. I think, Rob, you want to see it over time or you want to see it in total?
No, I was just wondering, and we've discussed this before, but I can't remember what we came up with on the real estate. Was there a way to do a special I guess, take the time to break out what those units, what areas those particular units are coming from, so we'd have a little better idea, because otherwise it just makes that very difficult to gain much information out of it all.
Understood. And I will tell you, I've had many conversations with the clerk's office, and I suspect some people around this table also have as well. They do not have, they indicate that they do not have a mechanism. Their agreements with those vacation rental companies, which are, a contractual agreement, it's a one submittal amount. And as such, they indicate they're unable to break it out. But, I share with you the information I get from them.
And just to follow up, Rob, when I sat here back in yesteryear, we certainly talked about that breakdown, which is essential. And, we certainly want to do that. As Tam had indicated, I'll certainly work with the clerk any way I can. The more we can get that number refined, the better off we are. There's a lot of conversations that went around this table for the number of years I sat here on what that might look like for what municipality. I get some of the restrictions we have, but we've got to work within the data that we have. But as Tom said, I'll do the best I can to try to see what we can do to further break that down. Been a challenge. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't tell you the occupancy of the units, but it may be worth taking a look at where the units, the percentage of the units in each of the areas. Again, that doesn't tell you anything really, other than there's an offering out there.
And
at least you know, hey, there's this many offered on Sanibel, on Fort Myers Beach, on.
And to be fair, some of the municipalities are requiring a registration. So Cape Coral has recently begun requiring registration, correct?
Yeah, not too recently. It's been there for a while. The issue has been the collector's willingness or requirement to separate where the money came from based on the fact that they have properties across a variety of cities. And so when XYZ Property Management submits $34,000, they don't have to say this much came from this municipality, this much came from that municipality. So the effort has been with the city clerk's office is to use some type of a roster where the registry does help to identify where those properties were, and then in turn have technology involved to make sure that all those people that are using their residences as vacation rentals are collecting the tax and submitting it.
Correct. And, that effort the clerk of courts has a big effort around enforcement, trying to ensure that people are collecting. And I think I always put this in your proposed budget report, but we have more individual units paying tax in Lee County than they have in Orange County, which is Orlando's county. They do a very, very, very good job of trying to ensure that as many of those vacation rentals as possible are notified and aware of their requirement to pay tax and are following up with them and auditing them and doing things to ensure that happens.
Isn't that the bigger concern? Not, I don't know, knowing which municipality it comes from, does it really matter? I mean, as long as we're collecting it, does it really matter?
I think
It
it matters
does.
to the municipalities.
Oh, it does? The municipality?
I don't think it matters
Oh,
to
doesn't matter to me, I guess.
tourism effort. Yeah, I think it matters to them, but I mean, it is a countywide tax. It is collected by the county. It is expended by the county. And, what comes from which municipality is not driving those decisions. It's being driven by, what assets we have that we can market and allocate.
Where the money goes after the fact. Where does it come from? Where is it reinvested in and whatnot? And so, like, the slide that makes me squirm the most is when we bring up the hotel room update and we show 820 rooms in Cape Coral when we know we have over 5,000 vacation rentals. And so the generator of tax there is, much more than what shows up in the hotel room update every month, so to speak.
Correct. And if there was a way to get our arms truly around how many vacation rentals, I would be the biggest advocate for doing it, because we know, well, look at the real estate line. It's 40% of bed tax collection. We understand that.
And we know we're working on it.
But
Chipping away at the rock.
But at the end of the day, it could be a vacation rental 1 week a year and never a vacation rental again. And that's the difference between a hotel. It's a hotel every single day of the year. And so, that is a tricky conversation. People can put a unit up just for the 3 months of high season, and then the rest of the year it's off the market. And so, yes, there may be 5,000 units, but it doesn't mean they're all available 365 nights a year. There is a big difference, and that affects revenue too.
I'm pretty sure that the other thing, when you're dealing with those big real estate companies that aren't based here, they look at a mailing address, and it may say Fort Myers, but it's unincorporated Lee County. I think that skews it as well.
Correct.
They don't, like our tourists, they don't know the boundaries.
Most of our residents don't know our boundaries. I mean, I don't mean that in any insulting way, but most people don't know they think they live, I live in unincorporated Lee County, a quarter of a mile south of Colonial. Most people would say we live in the city, but we don't, it's tricky.
You may want to look at, we're going to be rolling out here in the next probably 4 to 6 weeks, a new software specifically geared to go towards short-term rentals. It's very robust. It gives you all the data that you've been talking about, that it's at the tip of your fingers. And we're talking about adding a specific employee to do nothing but monitor that. It'll issue code violations. It's a pretty powerful software. If it works as good as they say it does, I'll update you at the next meeting, but we're having our kickoff tomorrow with it, and it's pretty impressive.
And in fairness, that is the data we get from Key Data. They do that by using data scraping from the internet, but understand they could be listed on Airbnb, they could be listed on Vrbo, they could be on HomeAway, they could have the same house on 4 or 5 platforms. So it's very, very difficult to, without doing a registration by property, what unit, how many units there actually are.
It does, but it also breaks it down specifically to how many days it was rented, what days it was rented, the amount of money it charged, how much was collected, and it's done per property and per short-term rental company.
Based on data scraping.
Yes, correct.
So if the listing got taken down, or doesn't mean it was rented, there's some nuances there.
Certainly, but it's much closer than just shooting in the dark.
Correct. It's certainly a benchmark, and that's how we've been using Key Data, saying. Yes. Right here.
So, Bill brought up a topic that was a lot of discussion back in the day when I was on the TDC. For some of you that may or may not know, back in yesteryear, there were 2 seats occupied by municipalities. They were 4-year terms. One would be and was allocated to Cape Coral. The other was actually allocated to the remaining 5 cities. It was 4 years for the rotation, so 20 years. So why people wanted the allocation was the intent of the statute when Commissioner Kiker, and at the time was Mayor Kiker, God rest his soul, and I were mayors in Sanibel. We looked at the intent of really bed tax and the collection and the representation, and the intent was always to have the biggest remitter sit at the table, not necessarily the biggest population. There was a correlation that population, generally speaking, remitted the most bed tax. So lo and behold, this changed. And it changed by Mayor Kiker at the time went to Garrett Richter, Senator Richter, and talked about a change to be consistent with the other counties, consistent with somebody sitting at this table that had the largest bed tax remitting. And back then, Commissioner Kiker and I talked about number 1 and number 2 of the highest bed taxes, having 1 seat and then the other seat to the 4 remaining municipalities. And for fairness, we said, let's just have the rotation every 2 years. Well, lo and behold, because of Ian, because of Lean, because of Milton, Sanibel and Fort Myers Beach, and I don't even know when the change took place, but it's been 10 plus years to my recollection, we're now put in the number 1 and number 2 slot. Cape Coral, when we had the discussion, we did the data, even their own representative voted to obviously have the change take place. So unfortunately, because of the storm, the clerk has notified us at the end of June, we will have a totally different rotation. Both Sanibel and Fort Myers Beach will no longer be the entity that are reporting the most bed tax. So that seat will obviously change after the end of June. It's Fort Myers and Bonita Springs that remit the most bed tax currently at the time. So 1 seat will go to Fort Myers and Bonita, and they'll rotate every 2 years, and then the remaining 4 seats will then go through the rotation. So it does matter, Bill, because honestly, when I sat here, it was a big discussion, and we always felt if you remitted the most tax, you know, you had an opportunity to sit here and represent the county, represent your city, and certainly advocate for it. So I don't want to surprise anybody. It's my first meeting, but this was something that was in the works before I came aboard. Kevin Carnes, our clerk, does a great job of doing what he needs to do, but as a result of this, you know, he did give me a memo, was sent to all the other commissioners to inform us at the end of June the rotation will take place. So my recollection back in the day was it was important for the breakdown. And when I sat here, I used to complain about the breakdown in real estate. You know, when I was in Sanibel, we had a software program. We worked very closely with the league on to identify all the people that were doing VRB and Airbnb to try to make sure we were capturing all that, to try to make sure we were inhabited. It also enabled us to stay within the restrictions of rentals. You know, we're very strict month rental, week rental, and a lot of people got used to just, let me rent my house for the weekend and those things. So the software was helpful for having people do it properly, to remit the tax, and identify the frequent flyers that obviously didn't adhere to the rules. So I bring it up because the conversation went that way. I was going to talk about this later, but I just want everyone to know that's basically what we received from the clerk. I only received it a day or 2 ago, and just wanted to share it since the conversation came up. And what's the difference? When I sat around this table, Commissioner Kiker and I thought it was important for the highest remitter to sit here and have that conversation. It has evolved to all municipalities now sitting here, non-voting members and voting members. And it's great to have engagement, but that's really the background for that. And for some people that haven't been here for a while, you know, I've had many people say, why did this occur? Why did you take this away? Why did you do that? You know, and honestly, we just followed what we thought the intent was, and the intent was the largest remitter. So that will change because of Ian, and I suspect the 2-year cycle, it might take a little bit for Fort Myers and Sanibel to have the properties back online to get back into that standing. But that's the history. Wanted to bring it up since you brought it up, Bill. It was a great introduction to say why do we do it, and the conversations that went around at this table when I sat here, it was really important. I miss anything?
I didn't realize it was a hot topic.
You're right there.
It's okay.
My bad.
Just thought it was important for the history for people to know. Thanks, Dan.
Absolutely. In deference to time, because we have several things to go through with you today, I did not have Joseph from DPA come to present the July through September quarterly report. It is in your packet, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Those are pretty self-explanatory. I do enjoy Joseph's presentations, but I know that this meeting sometimes can be long, and I wanted to make sure we stayed on track. With that, I'd like to shift to asking Brian Osowski to come and give you an update on our marketing efforts.
Good morning, Mr. Commissioner, members of council. I'm Brian Osowski, Marketing Director, and I'm pleased to provide this morning's marketing update. I'd like to kick things off this morning with something that our team is pretty proud of, our digital visitor guide. So for those of you who don't know, Visit Florida every year at the Governor's Conference on Tourism in September presents the Flagler Awards. And the Flagler Awards recognize the best in destination marketing over a number of different categories. And this is what we covet, these little statue men. This is Henry Flagler, and this award is the top prize in any category, called the Henry. Over the years, we're proud that we've earned a number of these. And as a matter of fact, I think we're outgrowing our trophy case. So I'm going to requisition another trophy case. But this year, we have one more to add to our collection. We took home the Henry for our current 2024 digital visitor guide. So just wanted to share that now we have an award-winning visitor guide. Moving into 2025, we've again taken a digital-only approach. It allows us flexibility to make changes throughout the year, highlight seasonal content, update the event listings, and that sort of thing. And since it's digital, it also allows us to incorporate video and sounds of the destination, and everything links back to the website to easily, help visitors find the information that they're looking for. So just a quick sneak peek of what the new guide will look like. Island hopping there, of course. We highlight our nature and parks, arts and culture, the history of the destination, getting out on the water to do some paddling, of course, family activities, and we will, of course, highlight all of our Lee County neighborhoods, and we also include some of the larger events that will help draw visitors to the area. So our 2025 visitor guide is nearly complete. It will be released sometime after the first of the year in January. Now, speaking of events, county staff is once again producing the Ag Expo. It takes place this year, February 27th to March 9th at the Lee Civic Center complex. You can see here we are giving it added visibility this year in our visitor guide. And speaking of the expo, this year's theme is where an ag-citing adventure awaits. Something different we did this year over last year. We used some of our budget resources to put the Mega Pass on sale for Black Friday. Now, the Mega Pass gets you entry into the event and unlimited rides, right? The promotion worked. I think we're all very proud of it. We generated 502 Mega Pass sales, as well as regular admission tickets as well. So we have a lot to look forward to at this year's event. Again, it's February 27th through March 9th. You've also heard me talk a lot about our placemaking initiatives, like our neighborhood mural program and our webcam program. The webcams are doing extremely well. Listen to these numbers. So total viewing time for last fiscal year, 36,813 hours. That is just under 750,000 unique visitors and 1.7 million total visitors, which means people are coming back and looking at those webcams multiple times, which is what our intention was. So our newest webcam is out on Pine Island. We needed to, unfortunately, move it from our old location near the Bokeelia Fishing Pier, and now we're out at Knight's Landing. Can we click through to the cam in real time? So all of these are HD cams. I really had my fingers crossed that there would be a little pelican on that perch there this morning. There was a pelican there during run-through yesterday. But what's really cool about our cams, different than a lot of other webcams that you see, is that visitors can actually take control of the cams and move them to preset locations. Not the way we wanted to break records, but the 2 days during Hurricane Milton, just in those 2 days, we had 450,000 views of the cams, and it wasn't unusual to see 50 or 60 people in queue waiting to take control of those cams. So we are very proud of this program, and we are now working on our next camera installation at the special request of Chris Brady, our Assistant County Manager. It will be out at Prairie Pines Preserve, say that 10 times fast, in North Fort Myers. What's going to be unique about that camera is that it's going to be deep in the preserve, and it will also have sound, so we'll be able to hear the sounds of wildlife on that one. It's an exciting project. Okay, if you attended our annual meeting last month, thank you very much for being there. But I wanted to take this opportunity again to share a sneak peek at our new brand campaign. So it's probably no surprise that we collect a lot of user-generated content, or UGC as most call it, like the images that you see here. The recurring theme in all of the content and our insight into this new campaign is that people want a place that provides a comforting escape from the routine of their everyday lives. So we've been working on a new campaign that will feature user-generated content with the goal to inform and remind visitors that spending time here allows them to prioritize their well-being and the feeling of relaxation that they've been looking for. We want to reassure them that those feelings that they have when they're here will never change. And, of course, we want to establish new, loyal visitors with the proposition that when you find your place, you keep coming back. So what are some of those feelings that visitors feel? Of course, relaxation, a sense of adventure, feeling a sense of connection, being closer to nature and the ones that you love, playful, letting loose and having fun, and curiosity, eager to discover more about a particular place. So we put together a campaign anthem that I'm going to share with you this morning for our new brand campaign we're calling Just Feels Right.
Sometimes our days feel never-ending, when all we need to feel unstuck is the right kind of break. Generations of visitors already know the islands, beaches, and neighborhoods of Fort Myers as that escape. It's where there's time and space to focus on simple joys instead of everyday worries. To feel relaxed enough to live in the moment. Curious to discover more. Connected to the world around you. Playful and ready to let loose. Adventurous and open to whatever comes your way. This is where we rediscover the best version of ourselves. Because whatever this place makes you feel, it just feels right. And when you find a place like that, you keep coming back.
And we do think it feels just right here, and we knew all of you feel the same way. So just taking a look at some of our early print executions, all of these user-generated content, Chasing the Sun, Stretching Your Horizons, Just Feels Right, Kidding Around, Making Your Own Waves, First time for everything just feels right, and so does making time for each other, as well as coasting the day away. So we'll continue to develop those assets as the campaign evolves, as well as our digital assets. These are targeted at our 5 addressable audiences, starting with our savvy explorers, our social sophisticates, of course, family fun seekers, timeless travelers, and our newest audience target this year, affluent adventurers. All right, moving on to some of our media placements that we're working on right now. Kicking things off with Afar. Sorry about that. This is on the left, an email execution that we're working on, as well as a social media execution there on the right. So kicking things off with Afar. In addition to a couple of Visit Florida Co-op print placements that we have scheduled to appear in the Afar magazine in January and in April, we're working with the team on a custom tabbed unit that allows their readers to easily move through the tabs and learn about different components of our destination and what we have to offer. So some of those include arts and culture, of course our beaches, community events, island hopping, getting back closer to nature, and waterfront or coastal dining. Now, we consider the placements with Afar to be an always-on effort. Again, it starts next month in January, and the effort with Afar will run all the way through the end of the fiscal year through September. A few of our other integrated media efforts, I really love this one, with Garden and Gun. We are bringing the flavor of Fort Myers to Atlanta, which of course is one of our primary feeder markets. In partnership with Garden and Gun, we are hosting a menu takeover and Sunday supper at the Garden and Gun Club, located at the Battery in Atlanta. So a lot of Garden and Gun special guests and readers will be invited, but as part of the event, we'll receive video footage on Garden and Gun's social handles and features across print, email, and digital. Those efforts take place March through July. This year, our connected TV placements will appear throughout Amazon Prime's premium inventory. It's highly targeted to our audiences. Again, it's another always-on effort that will run through the end of the fiscal year, featuring our new Just Feels Right campaign. And in partnership with Travel Zoo, we will have live news-style interviews, videos from the destination that will air across a minimum of 15 regional and national markets, of course aligning with our key feeder markets. And we'll also get a destination showcase on the Travel Zoo platform. That takes place February through April. And this is coming on the heels of a similar project that Ray Saraceno and our PR team is managing for National Plan Your Vacation Day next month on January 28th. We have a satellite media tour taking place on January 15th to encourage people to book their trips to Fort Myers. Next up, one of our favorites to work with over the years is the New York Times. The package that we're working on this year includes some paid social posts on the New York Times social channels, or their travel handle rather. We have custom podcast spots and custom digital content across the New York Times website that highlights the different speeds at which visitors can experience our area. That's starting in April and again running through the end of the fiscal year in September. And the last integrated package I wanted to share with you this morning, we're calling this one the Mega Campaign. It's really a first of its kind. We are bringing together the brand power of Dotdash Meredith and VRBO on a huge vacation rental promotion. We'll have featured spreads in Southern Living Magazine, Midwest Living Magazine, and Travel and Leisure. We'll also have digital and influencer-generated content and a custom landing page on VRBO that includes all of our area's vacation rental inventory, and it should be a fun one. I want to read to you an excerpt of the creative brief. A good vacation provides a change of scenery, but a great destination just feels right. And at the heart of it all is a vacation rental that sets the stage for memory making and special experiences with your crew. A home away from home that puts the islands, beaches, and neighborhoods of Fort Myers at your fingertips, granting access to the area's incredible natural and cultural attractions, plus signature food and beverage spots, pristine beaches, and more. Whether it's your first time here or a return visit, discover your new happy place as you reconnect and experience Fort Myers from a fresh perspective. So that's what I've got for you this morning, and I'm glad to answer any questions that you might have. Bill.
I saw Collier doubled their budget, their marketing budget for something like from 5 to 10. I mean, I guess I'm just looking for what's your perspectives on that. I guess my opinion would be is that they've been. I mean, it's good. It's like getting all the countries spend the same amount in NATO, but which is great that they brought that number up. But how's that going to affect us? And
Interesting. I always thought they benefited from our effort, and I assume we'll benefit from their effort. I mean, obviously we have slightly different audiences that we go after and they go after, but I do think there's overlap for sure. There's enough similarity between the destinations that I think.
same airport.
Same airport, and if they're there, they'll come up and spend the day up here, come explore our area. I know I sat next to a guy on an airplane that came to a conference at the Marco Island Marriott and ended up buying a house on Sanibel because after the conference, they explored the area, started vacationing on Sanibel, and came back year after year and decided to buy a house. So I think those things happen, organically because the communities, they're almost grown together at this point, right? But, I think it's good news that they're stepping up their game. Yes, it's a little bit of competition, but I think it's good competition.
Jay, did you have a question?
I have a question on the digital visitor guide.
Yes.
Are you able to change that throughout the year? Are you able to go in because it's digital?
We can.
Have more flexibility so we can adjust it to seasonality?
You're absolutely right. So not only can we go in and make a change that's needed right away, because it's a digital piece and we don't have the lag time with printing, we've opted to, we'll roll out our guide in 2025 in January, and then over the summer, for seasonality and to update the events and images and content, we'll come up with another refreshed version of the 2025 guide midway through the year. So we have a lot of flexibility there. The reason we did that, of course, is we were just about ready to go to print before Hurricane Ian. Of course, after the hurricane, everything that we had been working with was outdated, and we thought, well, it's going to be several years of recovery, and we didn't want a printed guide to be in circulation to be misleading or not be all-encompassing for what's really going on in the destination. And so we've opted to go digital, and we're proud of it. And I think the folks, the judges at Visit Florida for the Flagler Awards were impressed by it as well. And, we're learning more ways that we can utilize it and more things we can incorporate into it. But yeah, flexibility and our ability to pivot was key in that decision.
Just to follow up on that, will you allow partners to buy in for certain portions of the year? Like maybe Bill doesn't need season, but he wants summer, so you can do some co-op advertising just on summer?
We don't insert any advertising into our guide.
Okay. But
it's something we've talked about.
Right. Bill can buy into it at the times of year when he needs it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. But no advertising in the guide.
Why am I an example?
I didn't know it was such a big deal.
Yeah, hot topic.
Well played.
Bill?
Thank you. As you might consider adding cameras to the system, you might want to consider in the Cape, it was previously spoken about the Lake Kennedy Racket Center, and with the addition of Paradise Cove, there is literally activity there from dawn to dusk and beyond dusk because it's a lighted facility. And so to show activity and with the popularity of pickleball and people traveling and coming to areas that have those amenities, one of the biggest things we hear at the racket club when people come to participate in the tournaments from outside our area is, holy cow, you have a water park here too? And I think that's helping bring the families to the area as well, not just the competitors, but the families to the area as well. So to be able to see that activity and the thought that whatever's on that camera, there's kind of something going on anytime anyone would click into it, I think might be a good addition to the cameras.
And the popularity of racquetball just soars.
Or pickleball. Yeah, that's okay.
Apologies.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm so
yeah,
old.
yeah. Yeah, don't do that with an arm's reach of a pickleball player.
I know, I've now insulted so many people, but we hosted this week our contractors from the UK, Ireland, and the Nordic region, and their big question was, tell me more about pickleball. Everywhere we've been, we've seen pickleball, and this is not very popular in the UK, and let's learn more about it. So the irony, that we're having these conversations. Yeah.
Wait till they try to keep score. It's really hard to score. Oh, I think it is, yeah.
Any other questions I might be able to answer?
Got one more comment.
Oh, it's like one of our presidents said, I want to tell you a question, but it's kind of a statement. In the long term, great presentation, great campaign moving forward, but where do we find that balance between what we offer in the green space and the relaxation and the tremendous growth pressure we're going under? How does that affect your campaign? With that said, we know what we don't want to be, and that's what the East Coast turned into. People are migrating this way to get back to that green space, back to that natural living of having space around us, but we're also under this onslaught of people wanting to move here. So how do you find that balance in your campaign of saying quality of life is more important than the quantity of life?
Councilman, I'll try to answer that. I think, the tricky part for us is we can only market what we have, right? And those decisions about growth and other things are being made by other policy boards within this community. So we recognize that what makes us stand out, no doubt, is that we did not build on every square inch of this place. That our communities have made a commitment to conservation and preservation. And, that is, again, welcoming these guests from the UK, right? And they're here and they're like, we didn't know there was this much nature and we get to see this much wildlife. That's what makes us special. So from our point of view, you're always going to see that highlighted in our marketing. And I know, I look back a few years and, some of the efforts we've done. I remember when, we made a really amazing time-lapse video, and I said, by making this, we're sending the message that this is so special, we cannot mess it up. And I think, our message is always that, we have to preserve and protect this place. It's too important, not only to our economy, but to our lifestyle. And what makes people want to be here, that's the tricky part, right, is that we have had that commitment. Maybe we can't, have everyone here. We'll welcome them for a bit and then let them go on.
Thank you very much. Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's the water story, it's the nature and wildlife story, and of course the neighborhoods that make Lee County a unique place. And that's what our narrative is based on, and it yields those feelings that I shared that people have, and that's what we're trying to instill in folks, that you can have those feelings here because of what we have to offer.
Yes. I don't think we should ever forget, it's not just what we have, but that we can enjoy it. A lot of the people come to us from outside of our area that it's not necessarily the water, but it's the fact that they can't do any bistro dining in Chicago in January. They can't walk the open air malls and whatnot, in February in Detroit or, where all of our people come from. So the fact that we have all of the open air and just the ability to take care of, or to take advantage of our environment as far as the weather is concerned and the warmth is concerned, I think they come here for that. Just as much as they would come here to go out on the boat, they come here to enjoy being able just to be outside doing things that they can't do back where they're from because of the season.
Literally, we used to not spend money to market winter because all we needed was Midwest and the Northeast to be cold, and our hotels were full, you know. But our comp set, unfortunately, is also going for the same or similar business at the same time of year. So now we're all in the market competing for those winter visits. But it wasn't that long ago that we just said, hey, the colder the winter, the better it is for us. So 100% agree with that. Anything else? I have one last item of business. If you were unable to attend our annual meeting, you missed at the end a touching tribute that we put together for Pam Cronin. Basically for all the memories that the Shell Factory has provided our visitors and our residents over the years, over the last 86 years. And I wanted to share that video again with this group this morning. Take a look.
Kim, we won't make you say anything if you don't want to. I understand. I know it's hard, but it's also really special. And, you know, you cannot not celebrate that, you know, this is big change, but want to celebrate what it was and how wonderful it was for us as a community and say a big thank you to you and Tom for all you did to extend that for as long as you did and provide so much joy in people's lives. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
That concludes my report, sir.
Wonderful. Go to new business. Approval of the fourth quarter 24 budget report.
Good morning. For the record, I'm April Green, your fiscal manager. Well, I promise mine won't be as teary-eyed as that last presentation. I spent quite a bit of time there. Okay, so today I'm providing an overview of our quarter 4 budget reports for the VCB operating, beach and shoreline, and sports development business units. Our fund is closed, but it has not been audited yet, so if there's any changes, it will just be minor. Not expecting any. So first we start off with the VCB operating business unit. And the quarter 4 spend rate landed right at 93%. In the beach and shoreline business unit, we are wrapped up there at 79% of the budget. And then we have the sports development business unit, and we landed at 89% of the budget. There wasn't any significant call-outs. for variances. Do we have any questions about the quarter four budget? No? All right, well, this concludes the overview. If there's no questions, I respectfully request a motion for the council to accept the budget reports as presented.
So moved.
A second.
Motion and second on the floor. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Approval TDC Vice Chair.
Take nominations.
All right, gladly we'll take nominations for Vice Chair. Yes, Rob?
I nominate Jay Johnson, if he hasn't already got somebody nominated. You didn't speak, you didn't get enough fill-ins as vice chair last year, you got to do it.
Thank you. I'll accept the nomination.
Motion on the floor. Any other nominations? I'll close nominations. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Congratulations, Jay.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob.
Approval 25 TDC meeting dates. They're in your packet. Any questions or discussions? I do appreciate staff making some adjustments. My schedule certainly is challenging, and trying to be in two places at one time is impossible. So thanks for the accommodation very much.
Yes, generally speaking, the meetings are on the second Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. You will see we're going to meet on January 16th instead of the week before. That allows the commissioner to participate in the legislative delegation meeting. And then in May, it seems the Port Authority has their meeting in the morning, so we're going to slide to the afternoon, but it is the second Thursday in that case.
No issue?
Yeah, please.
You need a motion, or?
Yeah, I do need a motion.
Motion to approve?
I have a motion. I have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And we'll approve the 25 sales and marketing plan.
This is a formality for our accreditation purposes. We would like for you to accept the sales and marketing plan as presented. Of course, we rolled that out at the annual meeting last month, and it is in your packet.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I have a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
I have a second. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Council information? We'll go around the table. Great.
If they want.
Gladly go around the table. Pam, I'll start with you if you have anything to bring to our attention.
I don't have anything except Merry Christmas and thank you very much again. That was very sweet.
Thank you. Dan?
Just a couple quick things. We had a very successful sand sculpting event, followed by the boat parade, which was this last weekend, done by the Chamber. A couple events coming up the next 2 weeks. This weekend is the Women's Club will be having their Christmas tree. I think it's their 7th or 8th annual for all the nonprofits on the island. So everyone donates a tree. You can bid online, or you can show up to the event. It's either Friday or Saturday. There is a chili cook-off, so if you want to try to come and take down the 4-time champion, you're welcome to come on try it. The weekend after will be our, my wife and I have started about 7 years ago a bike event where you decorate your bikes and bike around on Christmas Carol. Obviously, we didn't have it the year Ian, but this year it's back. It'll be bigger than ever. We're adding 2 bands to start off at Bayside Park on Saturday the 21st. At 4 o'clock, we'll be decorating until 6. There'll be a band playing. We'll ride quarter of the way down the island, probably down to Diamond Head area, turn around, come back, where Ben Allen Band will be playing a free concert. So anyone that would like to decorate their bikes and come and join us. Usually we get the Grinch, we get everyone from the Christmas Story, obviously Santa and Mrs. Claus will be there. You could come by bike, scooter, golf cart. If you need one, let me know. I know a guy. Be able to come down, decorate, have some fun. And then obviously at the end of the year, we'll have our annual New Year's Eve fireworks that will be shot off from the barge at the end of where the pier used to be. So the next 2-3 weeks in Fort Myers Beach are going to be pretty busy. Come on down. That's it. Thank you.
I have nothing other than happy holidays to everyone.
Yeah, looking forward to all the events and happy holidays.
Here comes Bruce Willis.
Holidays.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Wish everybody
Happy holidays.
everybody Merry Christmas and safe travels if you're moving around.
Happy holidays to everybody.
I'm working on a surprise that I hope to bring to the January meeting. But everybody have a happy holiday.
Teaser.
Oh, teaser, teaser.
Come on, it's a long time, Tony.
All right.
Chris?
I know people that can keep a secret. So can I.
Happy holidays, everybody. I'd just like to take a moment to first thank the board for their support of TAM and the BCB team, the TDC Council for their support as well, and industry partners. And I'd like to take a special opportunity to say thank you to TAM and the entire BCB team. 2024 is not without its own set of challenges. We often forget that those challenges impact them personally as well, and their unwavering dedication and support of this community and the passion that they have for this community is always a priority for this team. And I just want to say I'm very proud to work alongside of you, and thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Chris.
I'll certainly extend some of those comments. First, I'd like to certainly thank staff for so many different aspects, and we're great at being diversified and pivoting. I can tell you that so many different people helped as we prepared for the different storms and a number of arms. So not only do you have that, and as Chris had indicated, so many people had their own homes affected and still stepped up and did what they needed to do. I can't even imagine the challenge of trying to really juggle both, but thank you so much. I can't say enough for the good things. When I was in the city, it was one thing. When I came here to the county, just see the preparation that we do and how we all get together and then have to do our regular jobs is just amazing. So thank you very much to your staff and all the assistance we had. I don't know how we do it without you all, so I can't thank you enough. It's a lot easier to make policy decisions when so many people are doing all the big legwork. So thank you very much. Appreciate it very much. Don't have anything else. TDC member items we did. Anything else before us?
Lots of articles in your packet for you. Enjoy those.
Merry Christmas to everybody, and I'll call for an adjournment.